Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the next installment of our Student Story Week. We're talking about making friends and getting involved again today. We're here with Adam from Fieldstone King's College School in Canada. So welcome. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate you joining and providing your perspective. I mentioned to you right before we went live, I know a lot of international students, they worry, they're nervous about making friends, and they don't really know where to start. So I can't wait to hear what advice you have. But before we get to that, Adam, tell our viewers where you're from.
So I am from a city called Port Said in Egypt, and yeah, I've lived a little bit around the place. So I've lived in Saudi Arabia, I've lived in Spain, and now I'm living in Canada. I'm an engineering student at the University of Toronto, so it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
Wow. Wow. So tell me a little, before we get into this, I want to know, what was your journey like before you got to Fieldstone? Like, you mentioned Saudi Arabia, you mentioned Spain. What were you doing there, and how did you end up at Fieldstone?
So I was born in Saudi Arabia. So my dad's was working there, and around so I lived there sort of until I was about 14, and then my dad within the same company moved to Barcelona in Spain. So we moved with him, and then when it was, we were coming up to the time where I had to sort of start thinking about university. We felt like Canada was sort of a good place to progress and sort of start something new there. So I moved to Toronto just before my final year of high school, just to get used to the city, get used to life there, and so yeah, I attended Fieldstone as a result. So and then I ended up moving on to the University of Toronto. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations for getting into University of Toronto. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So I want to know, you mentioned you moved around, you came to Canada directly from Spain, and you have this very international background. Did your family come to Canada with you, or are you there on your own?
So for the first year, it was just me and my mom, and then my dad joined us sort of a year after we moved. But sort of for the year of, that I was at Fieldstone, it was just me and my mom.
Okay. Okay. So that's kind of a pretty big change, I imagine, and happening at a time in your life where, last year of high school, lots is happening. So
Yeah.
I imagine, having some support from friends and from people was probably something you were looking for. That's a lot for you to handle. So
Yeah, I mean, when I moved to Canada, I knew a lot of people that I knew from my time in Saudi Arabia had also moved around the same time as well. So at least for me, it was a little bit easier knowing that, on weekends or from time to time, I could sort of go out and meet some old friends. So it was pretty good. It was a different experience because we hadn't obviously lived without my dad in before, so we'd always been together, and then that move sort of changed things a little bit. But it was hard at first, but I think you sort of try to get used to things and try to adapt to things, and you try to find a way to make things work.
yeah. Well, that leads into our discussion very well. So thinking of that, going through that big change, not only in your environment, but also in your family dynamic. When you started at Fieldstone, kind of how did you go about making friends? How was that for you?
So when I first joined Fieldstone, Fieldstone I believe, had just launched a summer orientation program, which Miss Long was running, and a lot of the new students came in and joined, and we got to go around the city. For example, we got to use the TTC, which was sort of the first time. I think we went to University of Toronto, we went to Toronto Islands, we went to different places around the city, just to, as an introduction to this new environment that we were all living in, because we were all international students coming from elsewhere. And you have this month, 3 week long program where you get to talk to new people, you get to see people coming in from different places. So just getting to get to know the people on during that program with me was sort of the starting point for me. At least I got to meet people who were at that time in a similar position to me. A lot of them also came through and stayed, had they had homestays, so for them it was a bit of an adjustment process as well. So the fact that we could all sort of relate to that experience and sort of, we were all coming in, we knew no one, and the fact that we had the chance to know each other at first was pretty helpful and pretty nice, I would say.
Yeah, and that's great that, Fieldstone offers that such a long orientation, because it's not always 3 weeks. Some schools, maybe it's a few days, maybe a week, but that, you're right, that really gives you a good opportunity to meet other students who are kind of in the same position as you are. And that's something I try to help other international students understand. If they want to study abroad and if they haven't done it before, it's really good to choose a school who knows how to make you feel comfortable, and who knows how to help you with that transition. Not all schools have experience with international students, so they don't know. So this is definitely something to look out for. So thank you for bringing that up. That's really interesting. But I'm sure along with the positives, there are probably some challenges, especially not only with the international students, but maybe when you started to mix with other Canadian students. Were there any difficulties you faced on either side?
I would say sort of even then when the internship we're going to get to meet people, but then when school starts, there's not always a guarantee that you're going to be in the same classes with them. There's not always a guarantee that you're going to share time slots. Even if you're doing the same course, you're not always sharing the same time slots. So again, there's also this, even when you start school, you still get to meet new people, but then it's a little bit of a different dynamic, because a lot of those people would have been at school for longer than you have, would have made their own friends, would have had their own way of going about things. And so, adjusting to that on the spot, trying to still meet new people, I would say it's still there's always still an adjustment period at times at first, even with there's always still an adjustment period. And I think getting through that was interesting. It was an interesting experience, because now I get to know not only the people who were with me on the orientation program, but people who knew more about the school, people who've been at the school for longer, who could tell me more about the school, more about their experience. That was, again, helpful, but again, there's still that adjustment period that you still have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Was it difficult for you coming in at your last year of high school? I mean, did that play into those challenges at all? Probably a lot, like you said, a lot of the students already knew each other. Do you think that affected your ability to make friends?
I wouldn't say so. I think maybe the only thing that was maybe in my mind was that consideration that this is my final year of high school, and then I will have to go through another adjustment period in a year, which I really did. Yeah. But again, I think mostly the community at Fieldstone was very open. It was very welcoming. So while that may have played on my mind a little at first, I think just taking a little bit of a deep breath and just going about things a little bit more, less tense, I guess, getting more easily. I think it was good. I wouldn't say it was extremely difficult, but again, any adjustment period has its own difficulties, even if it's within school or outside of school.
That's true. Definitely true. And it's good to go in kind of mentally prepared for that, there might be times where it's difficult and you struggle a little bit, but you learn something from those times as well. It builds character. It helps you learn how to find different ways to relate with people. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's an adjustment period. It's temporary. It's not forever that you're going to feel like that.
Yeah.
In your perspective, what do you think is the best way for other international students to make friends when they first arrive at a school?
I mean, I was lucky because I sort of had similar experiences before. Again, moving, even within Saudi Arabia, you get, I moved around school, so I transferred between two schools. And then again, with moving from Saudi Arabia to Spain, again, a similar situation to what happened at Fieldstone, but it was a little different because I moved during the year. but the thing I sort of learned throughout was to just not be afraid of meeting new people. Just go in and just be open about it. I think it's easier said than done of not being afraid, but trying to be open, trying to recognize that this is a very new environment and we all have to sort of make our own little tweaks to the way we go about things to sort of amalgamate within that new setting that you're in. And I would say just try as best as you can to go in with an open mind, that recognize the sort of the difficulties and the challenges that you have at first, and recognize that they are, again, as you said, they are temporary, but I guess just go in with an open mind and go in with this mindset that things are changing and that you're willing to see them change along the way, I would say.
That's great advice. When you started at Fieldstone, or even at any of your other schools, were you involved with like any clubs or organizations, sports, anything like that?
At Fieldstone, I think I got pretty involved. I would say I helped sort of run or set up and participate in the Model UN club at the school, because Model UN is a passion of mine from even before Fieldstone. I'd done Model UN throughout my entire time at Spain, even starting from my first year there, and it was sort of a big passion of mine. Public speaking is a big passion of mine. I'm still participating in public speaking at university because I do want to continue doing that. I also was involved with the student council at Fieldstone, and we had some events that we ran, some initiatives that we had. I also got involved with basketball and soccer, but it was just it was an interesting experience. I on those two occasions you get to meet entirely different people than you would be within class. So I would say I got pretty involved. Also, the community service hours. That was also an opportunity to go out and participate in communal activities and get to know the community that you're living in better. And I also got the chance to volunteer at the Toronto Waterfront Marathon back in 2018. And I met people there that I still talk to today. So it was sort of, I think for me, getting involved was also one of the ways that helped me sort of deal with that transition, because I still wanted to meet different people. I still wanted to talk to different groups of individuals and get to know them and get to know why they're doing the things they're doing, what interests them. And I think it was getting involved for me was a way of sort of adjusting to life in Fieldstone.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that leads to my next question, which is, do you think that involvement in those different clubs and Model UN and sports, did that have an impact on like your social experience and your social life?
Yeah, I mean, because you get to meet different people, you get to then decide you want to move those experiences to a more casual setting, and you get to meet those people outside school and go around the city with them. So it introduces a lot of people that you want to hang out with, you want to get to know more. So I think getting to meet all those different people also helped me to see different perspectives and led to different experiences, not even just in school, but outside of it as well. So I would say it had a positive impact, a really positive impact. Yeah.
Yeah, and you meet different types of friends too.
Yeah.
When you do that variety of activities, Model UN, I'm sure you were talking with, different people than you would when you're playing basketball, for example. Like you get to, like you said, different perspectives, and you have different circles that you can move around in, which I think adds to that well-rounded experience.
I mean, from my experience with soccer, I actually met one of my best friends currently in university because he was on a team playing against us, and we'd recognize actually two of my best friends at uni, we recognized each other from playing soccer against each other, and that was sort of the start of things for us, for the friendships. Like, oh yeah, I played against you like a few months, back in this tournament. Oh yeah, I remember you. And we sort of talk about things that happened in the tournament, not necessarily involving our teams, or we talk about the game that we played in. It was yeah, different people. I mean, with the people I was with at Model UN, you get to discuss a lot of more, on the politics side, on the social aspect of society a lot more. But then in different aspects, you get to talk about, more casual things. It's not always serious. There's a bit of, a high and low in terms of the seriousness of the conversation, which is always nice. So it
Yeah.
was, it's different people, different types of experiences. And I think for me, having that variety in the experiences that I have is very important to me as well. So it was
Mhm.
very good. Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's something I want our viewers to think about. You, even though there may be something that you're comfortable with, if you may be really good at a sport and you want to pursue that when you go to a new school, but also get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Try some other things, because you never know, it could either spark a new passion, or you could just meet your new best friend. You may not love the activity, but maybe you meet a really cool person while you're doing it.
Yeah.
So we have a couple questions here from viewers.
Yeah.
I'll pull up the first one. It's in Spanish, but well, first of all, do you speak Spanish since you
I
lived in Spain?
I forgot a lot of it, but I'll try my best.
I'll translate it anyway. So Mariana wants to know, are you still in contact with like the first people you met when you arrived?
Yeah, I'm still sort of, semi-regular contact with them. We sort of connect from time to time just to check up on each other. I still see some of the people that I've, when I first met. Obviously, with the current situation, it's hard because,
Yeah.
especially in Ontario right down, we're under stay-at-home orders, and that's not going to get lifted until maybe next month probably. So, but even then, sort of when the opportunity arises, I do try to connect with people, and I do try to still hang out with them, and I've done that. So it's nice to know that we can still talk and we can still connect, after all that time being together at school. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, some of those connections, you don't expect them to last as long as they end up lasting. And then it's like, oh my gosh, we've known each other for 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
And then when you're my age, it's like, oh my gosh, we've been friends for 10 years. How? But I'm not going to tell my age. Okay, we have another question here. This is Lena. This is who I was telling you about before we went live. Lena wants to know, from knowing that now you're studying at university in Canada, was it easier to make friends in high school or in university?
That's an interesting question. I think in university during first year, everyone's going in either knowing one or two people, maybe from their high school that also managed to get either in the same program or the same university, or just knowing people, from a while back, also attending the same university. But I'd say mostly people are sort of going in not knowing anyone, and sort of everyone is trying to find because when you go into university, one of one of the few things you hear about university is that that's where you'll form sort of your friends for life and your social group for a very long time, and so everyone's going in looking for that. So I think making friends in university, I would say it's a different experience from high school, simply because the circumstances are different. And at university, yes, you talk to a lot more people when you first get there, simply because everyone's trying to do the same thing, which is to find friends.
Yeah.
I think it depends on. I would have to say it depends. I think it's two different situations, and it's hard to relate them to each other from my experience, because in high school you have those established friendships that don't exist at university, and
Right.
they have their own difficulties, they have their own merits. I would say maybe it's hard to compare the two. I think it just
So based on your experience and your perspective about, you've recently gone through both, trying to make friends in high school and then making friends in college. And I agree with you. And when you start university, everybody is kind of on the same playing field when it comes to, we're all new, we're all trying to find our little group, whereas in high school you're trying to fit in to different groups.
yes.
It's totally different. So what, I know you already mentioned some, but I want to kind of end on this note, just again, some final advice for those students who may be joining halfway through high school, or like you, right before the final year. What would you recommend to them to do to make friends?
I guess just be open to the idea of meeting different people that you're not used to, especially if you're coming from, different country, moving to Canada or moving elsewhere, and maybe the culture is different, maybe society just functions differently. I think being open to those differences and wanting to discover more and wanting to learn more about those differences and sort of the new nuances that you're going to have to deal with, the new things that you're going to have to do. I think being open to that change and trying to participate in some of those is a very, very helpful way to sort of not only make new friends within high school, but also adjusting to the new community you're living in. I think
Mm-hmm.
trying to perhaps enforce a way of living that isn't necessarily going to fit might not be helpful, but trying to be open about the changes is definitely the way to go for me.
Yeah. And we have one more personal question, and I want to take it back to
That
the time that
that I understand.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I understand. I
So
think
I'll say it in English just for those who don't speak Spanish. So Mariela wants to know, what was your favorite part about being around people from different countries? And think about when you first got to
yeah.
Fieldstone.
I think for me, I'm always sort of hungry for knowledge. I'm always hungry to get to know more about things. Sort of been doing that for my entire life, and so when I get to meet new people, one of the things that I love about meeting people is just seeing different cultures. I could be in a group of people and I can look around and everyone's from a different place or has a different background, and it's interesting that we can all get together and have a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
And for it just, getting to know more about these people, getting to know more about their cultures, their background. For example, one of the things when I moved to, this is an experience I had when I was in Spain. I was an Egyptian coming from Saudi Arabia, and in my school, that was probably, I think I was the first Egyptian student to ever attend the school.
Mm-hmm.
So, people were, for example, they have these preconceived notions, and
Of course, yeah.
and going in and probably showing them that that isn't the case, and there's something different about this, and there's a different element of truth to it. I think I enjoy discovering that as well, because it
Yeah.
allows me to look at things differently than maybe I would
Yeah.
if I'd stayed, for example, in Saudi Arabia, or if I'd only stayed in Spain. I get to see things differently.
And not only, that doesn't only affect you either, that also impacts the people you were around, the new people you were getting exposed to. As you said, you were the first Egyptian student at that school. Not
Mhm.
only was that mind-opening for you, but
Mhm.
for the other students who became friends with you or were around you, they also learned a lot, I'm sure, from
Yeah.
meeting someone from somewhere where they may have never known anyone personally before. So it's really cool, very, very cool perspective. And, it's interesting when you are an international student, whether it's fair or not, you're kind of an ambassador for where you're from.
Yeah.
And you get that opportunity to challenge what people may think about people from your country, or, challenge what their expectations are, what they've heard. And even though you can get into some frustrating conversations when it comes to those things, I think it's really enriching all around when that happens.
Mhm.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
The one I think maybe the frustration kicks in when they're at first, but then sort of the understanding that the person in front of you is open to getting to actually learn is, I think, one of the beautiful things about meeting people from different places and different backgrounds. I think that desire, and I've seen it in most of the people that I've met. It's just that there's a desire to learn, and a desire to learn more, and desire to be more conscious about what you're saying, what you're doing. I think that's important, and
Mm-hmm.
that shared experience of not only did I have to be more conscious, but people have to be more conscious around me. That shared understanding, a shared experience, that it shows a lot of respect. It shows a desire to really get to know people, and I think that's the beautiful thing about ultimately, most beautiful thing about being around different people, it's that desire to know more, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that you're exactly right. That mutual respect that you come to find with other people of like, this is me, I want to learn about you, and vice versa. That's the groundwork that we all need to keep in mind in this world. But I just wanted to say, Adham, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your experience. I know this is something, like I said, students are curious about, especially those students who don't have a background like you of moving and being in different countries. Some people are about to do it for the first time. So I think you really helped ease a lot of fears or misconceptions that students may have. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to bring Stephanie in as well. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
My pleasure.
Yeah, for putting this together. This was awesome. All right, everyone. We will see you in the next installment of Student Story Week. And thank you to Stephanie and Adham from Fieldstone King's College School. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Bye.